Hi, this is Brian Auger of Brian Auger's Oblivion Express. You are in the Grooveyard with Tom Grooms.
We're on location with Brian Auger, and Brian is in the United States on tour. It's kind of a full circle for you in 2019 with the new release of your record, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually, because I've never done a straight piano album. But this is a new, that's the new album. It's a piano album. And it was a friend of mine. I've been playing in a club called Bogies in Los Angeles. And by the way, it's not a return to the US because I live here for about the last whatever. Anyway, the music director of Bogies called me up and said he had this project that he wanted to do, which was to have a piano trio every night for a week, a different one every night. Asked me whether I would like to start the week for him. And so, I said yes. And my son Karma is playing drums. Dan Lutz is on bass. And I'm playing straight piano, a nice Steinway that they brought in specially. And that is it. And it gives me a chance to actually play some of the tunes that I've loved over the years. Had great response from it. It's on Freestyle Records in London. Basically, that's it. That's how it all just happened by accident.
You're in the Grooveyard. We're on location with Brian Auger. The reason I say it's full circle is because in 1972, I was working at WHMC. We were playing Second Wind, and before that, I told you I was put out of Catholic school, but I learned about the Trinity later on in 1968 with Timothy Leary, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And a beautiful chick in that band, Miss Julie Driscoll.
Right.
And when I started to do the history and find out who you were, I thought you were comparable to Steve Winwood, except you stayed into the jazz idiom. You really took it on.
I came up playing jazz piano.
But what I'm saying is 72, El Chicano had Coming Home Baby. I was playing that on HMC.
But the thing is, it's full circle. That's the name of the new album, in fact. And it's for that because I have come right the way through. I'd never managed to make a piano trio album on jazz in England because, as they said at the time, oh no, British jazz doesn't sell, mate. And so, anyway, that doesn't make any difference. I came on and I heard the great Jimmy Smith playing organ, and eventually I ended up buying an organ, and that really changed my life around completely. I have not given up jazz or anything else. I just play the music that I like.
You're just like Mr. Rod Argent, who emailed me after he got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was with Jim McCarty that night. We were downtown,
yes.
And we were so happy. And we talked about you because when it comes to the piano, your name comes up. And I know that you've done a lot of work in San Francisco. I'm very close to David Freiberg.
Yeah, because I lived there for about 7 years, actually, at one point.
You were gigging all the time.
Yeah.
But as you look at 2019, and as you look at, your son is in the band with you, but the young aspiring musician who is caught up with the internet, the Facebook, how do you cut through all that to become a star?
I don't worry about it. I am what I am, and I play what I want to play. I've been very, very lucky that I've been able to play the music I want to play with the people that I want to play with. And we have a young lady in the band, Liliana de los Reyes, comes from, I think you might have heard of Walfredo Reyes, who played with Stevie Winwood. He's a great, great drummer in the Latin style and also in the straight jazz style. And here's the music line coming forward. She's a wonderful singer and a great percussionist.
Stevie was doing the Fania All-Stars way before Bruno Mars and way before the Latin craze that we got in the 90s. You know that in the 70s, as were you. But as you go back, and you're talking about bringing this new lady and mentoring her, going back to 1966, Jimi Hendrix was the guy that came in and sat in with you. He actually played with your band first when he came to the United Kingdom. Is that true?
Yeah, and he became a good friend of mine. I was very sad to see the way he kind of finished up. But he was. I got a call from Chaz Chandler, and he asked me to come up to the office to talk to him about something or other. And the only thing about that was that there was a guy called Mike Jeffrey who actually managed
the manager,
them, and that was somebody I had no wish to do anything with. Anything at all, you know. He was one of the biggest crooks on the scene, I think, really.
I think Jimmy would have been President of the United States had he stayed to play for us and entertain us.
Oh, I don't know. I was a little bit early for Jimmy.
He would have been president.
But anyway, you know, he came down to they wanted him to front my band, and I just started the Trinity, and I said, well, Julie Driscoll fronts my band, and I already have a guitar player, Vic Briggs, and what do you mean? Are you expecting me to throw those people out of the band and start and have this guy come forward that I haven't heard yet? You know, they didn't even tell me his name at the time. You know, so I said, look, because Chaz was an old friend of mine, I said, look, we're playing at the Cromwellian Club on Friday. Why don't you bring him down? Because after hours, that was the place where everybody on the scene, you know, came to see what was happening. And I said it's like in a way it could be a showcase for him. He can sit in with my band, you know.
But you were the musician. You were the man. You were not only your reputation, just like Jimmy Page, just like John Paul Jones. You were it, man. If somebody wanted you to play, they couldn't get Mike Finnegan, or if they couldn't get you. And I mean, I followed this as a kid. We don't have that anymore in the music industry. We don't have a record label anymore. We don't have promotion.
Yeah, I know. It's a different industry.
But you're doing it. So what I'm trying to say is, like, tonight, you'll be bringing new talent on stage and mentoring.
Well, I'm not mentoring anybody. This lady has already found her way. And, you know, asked me, you know, do you want me to do these tunes in a particular way? That I said, no, I want you to become you and do it in your way. I heard you sing, and that's what I'm after, you know.
Point, counterpoint.
My son is in the band, by the way, Carla.
Exactly.
Andreas Geck, a wonderful bass player, who's been musical director for several artists. And Frank Gambale, who's been a friend of mine for years, and we've tried to work together. This is the first time that's been able to happen.
Will you go up to Woodstock, do you think?
I beg your pardon?
Will you go up to Woodstock and play?
No.
You wouldn't play?
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Yeah. Woodstock doesn't exist anymore, man.
The festival that's coming up.
Oh, the festival that's coming up.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work out very well, and no, I wouldn't come to play.
You sound like Burton Cummings, because he said he's going to stay home and listen to his music and watch the video on television.
Yeah, I would say that was an amazing event in music history. It happened spontaneously, and there's going to be nothing spontaneous about what happens, you know, at that festival.
You're in the Grooveyard. Our guest is Brian Auger. He's playing at the Ramshead in Annapolis tonight. Check him out online if you would like to find any of his music on RCA, for example, Freedom Jazz Dance, any of those songs. What's your website, sir?
Mine is, believe it or not, brianauger.com.
brianauger.com. You'll find a tour schedule, where he'll be. Check him out.
And I own all my masters, and so they're up.
Well, speaking of that, we're talking about Woodstock. I knew about you through Rick Danko, who was a very good friend of mine. Yeah. And Rick said, well, Julie just put it on her TV show, This Wheel's on Fire. And he was so happy. And this was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, that was some acetates, actually, you know, that were sent to London. I think Manfred Mann got them first, and they did... Mighty Quinn, yeah. And there was only a couple of things left, and one was This Wheel's on Fire. And it was just a bass player and Dylan playing and singing, you know. And so I listened to this, and Julie thought this was it was a great tune. And somebody was talking about it as a single, and I didn't see that. I said, well, look, you know, it could be a great album track, so let's have a shot at it, you know. I took it home, and it had a kind of a walking bass thing, you know, walking. So it was easy for me to go, well, we just play a jazz beat to it, you know, and make it like a kind of a march, you know. And so I laid down the track, put some piano on it, put some strings on it, and Julie came in and did a phenomenal vocal, and basically that was it. I went to number one in England and across Europe. And people still ask for it today. I'm amazed, actually, off that first album that we made, Open. We're doing Season of the Witch tonight because, Liliana does such a phenomenal job on that. And you really need a female voice to do that,
You're keeping the music alive, and that's so important.
Well, it's amazing that people, and also across Europe, turn up and I'm like, why aren't you playing those tunes? And this has gone on for years. So what we did was my daughter Savannah was in the band at one point singing and said, I want to sing those things, Dad, So I said, well, why don't we just tell the Europeans we're going to do a tour, and it's going to be a Trinity tour, where we, by the way, Trinity was because the band was organ-based drums, and I always considered a rhythm section to be a union of three. That's all it means,
Thank you for explaining that. It's very important.
People would come up and say, "Did you go to Trinity College, Oxford?" And I said, "No, I didn't do that. No."
Well, Brian, we're looking forward to your performance tonight and in the future, and I'm so glad I finally did get to meet you. Once again, your website for those who want to procure your music, brianauger.com.
Yeah.
What's ahead in 2019?
Well, basically, I think in the summertime, I'm going to take some time off because I'm writing a book. In August, we're going to China and Japan. And in September, the end of September through the beginning of November, we'll be in Europe, all over most of the countries there.
Okay.
So,
well, best of luck. And for those, again, who want to get a hold of you, any of your music, brianauger.com. May I say one last thing? As we celebrate Woodstock, any message to the people who are going up there?
Have a wonderful time, because music is like a medicine. It's magic. So please indulge yourselves, and just cast an eye back to how that began in the first place. I was a little unhappy about the reaction to when Jimmy played the national anthem, and people got very upset about that. And I thought
he was a paratrooper; he had a right to do that.
He
would have been
did.
president, Brian.
He absolutely did. It would have been better than probably. I'm not saying anything.
We know that the president sang "Amazing Grace." Joan Baez did that the other night, and that was a rude awakening, but it was...
Anyway, that time was incredible. It was wonderful for music because even the big labels were looking for new things.
You were doing Les McCann. I told you that earlier this afternoon.
Yeah.
You did compared to what I think before I heard Les doing. And he did it, but
well, he did it on a record that was made in Switzerland.
With Eddie Harris, he did a live one.
And Eddie, and they became friends of mine actually. And Les is a riot, man. He's one of the only keyboard players who actually invites another keyboard player up.
Wow.
And so I got to play with him in San Francisco, and I said, he called me up, "Brian, you're coming down tonight, I'm playing." I said, well, yeah. And I said, shall I come on after the break and play a couple of things? He says, no. He said, no, just get down there and bring a clean shirt. And the last time I saw Les, which was a couple of years ago, we did a gig together. He asked if I would come and he turned up in a wheelchair and he said, like Les, man, he says, "Brian, come over here, man. Let me look at you. Oh. God, you're ugly."
And RCA Records, I hope you're listening, right?
Oh, well, that was
you got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, Elvis Presley was on the same label with Brian Auger.
That's right. He was. The reason I moved to America was because the amount of musical talent here was something that all my idols. I got to play with most of my idols, Herbie Hancock and Chick, and and particularly Cannonball Adderley.
Oh man, mercy.
Well, yeah, really, But that band, I love that band, man.
You'll have to come back to the Grooveyard and we'll continue this conversation.
Okay. There you go.
Mr. Brian Auger, ladies and gentlemen.